So behind me you can see what was Mayan milpa. So this was probably in corn, beans, and squash for 2 years. And you can see that the land is fairly degraded. In the back you can see the black stumps of the trees that were originally here. So the slash and burn agriculture, they cut down the trees, allow them to dry on the ground, and then in the dry season they burn the whole thing. So that releases the nutrients from the trees into the ground. But then there's no more nutrients coming into this area because they've cut all the trees down. Typically, the trees are raining down their leaves. They have a mycelial network underneath that's providing nitrogen. A lot of these trees are nitrogen fixers. So they've cut all that down. And so basically for 2 years is the only amount of time that they can grow corn, beans, and squash before the land is completely depleted. And the soil in the Yucatan is very thin. You know, maybe some places you have 10 centimeters, maybe you have 20 centimeters at most. But then in the background you can see, you know, there's a big lump of rock. So after 2 years, they've come back in here and they planted henequen. Henequen is one of the few things that will grow on this very depleted soil. And so you can see there's rows of henequen. So when you go to do an ecological restoration on this piece of land, it's going to be very hard to put the trees back because you have to find the pockets of soil so that you can plant your trees. And the moisture holding capability of the soil after it's been in corn, beans, and squash, and after it's been in henequen for a long periods of time, is very low. The organic matter in the soil is greatly depleted. And so it becomes very difficult to restore this type of an area. So this is henequen, and it produces a really useful fiber, an organic fiber. The henequen is native to the Yucatan, so it's a species that grows fairly easily. In terms of ecological restoration, once this field is finally out of production, a lot of the tree species are here. They just need their early successional species because they've been cut back. And so if you just let them go, these would be released and you'd have a scrub forest here. But you'd be missing a lot of the different elements, the larger trees, because the larger trees have big seeds and so they can't seed in, and birds have a harder time moving them around. So you'd have to return a lot of these different species like the ceiba and the peach that have big seeds, and you'd have to plant them back into this area to kickstart the ecosystem and get it going towards a natural forest again. So it's a long process, especially since you've degraded the soil completely, and restoring it in this way. And in very dry land situations, this is actually a technique that you can use. You can't grow anything else, but you can grow henequen, and so it is starting to add more biomass into the soil. It is sequestering carbon. So in a very degraded site, henequen is actually a very useful plant.